So next up, we have Yehuda Afek from Tel-Aviv University, who's come to tell us about POPAI, which is a type of DNS intrusion protection system that aims to offer protection against cache poisoning. Yehuda.
Thank you for listening. It's a joint work with Dr. Harel Berger and Professor Anat Bremer-Bar. And as you all know better than me, the DNS poisoning is still a threat, pervasive threat that we need to make sure we are protected from. And what I'm presenting is something to be a component in an IDS or firewall to protect from cache poisoning. And actually the whole thing, maybe we should think about deploying a IPS or a firewall specifically designed to protect DNS recursive resolvers. That's another approach that we would like to think about. It's the particular component we are presenting here. It's a very fast, efficient, but does both detection and mitigation for all the statistical attacks. We'll explain exactly in a minute. Both future attacks, we claim that, we'll see in a minute, we will protect other statistical poisoning attacks with 0 false negatives and negligible false positives. So what are statistical attacks? We're talking about repetitive responses that are just a statistical attack, fragmentation attack, and out-of-bailiwick attacks. We do not talk about man-in-the-middle attacks and BGP hijacking attacks, same type of philosophy. Past, we address our component blocks and would have blocked all of these attacks that have been presented in the literature since the beginning of the century. And, and also all those CVEs would not be effective and would not cause any effect on the protected resolvers that would use our component. So, future, we claim that even future, any type of new poisoning attacks, we would stop them if they are in the categories that we described. So we all know very well, and we've seen it in previous talks, what's a DNS request and resolution over UDP. And here is the attacker wants to do poisoning attack. So it knows that there was a request for bank.com went out, and before the response getting back to the recursive resolver, it quickly sent its own response. Here is the IP address for the bank.com, hoping for the client to visit its website so it can steal the credentials and do some harm. The recursive resolver checks the response. Does it have the correct domain name, port number, and transaction ID? Well, certainly the correct domain name. And we assume that the attacker knows how to figure out what's the port number or the transaction ID number. It knows how to guess them. So the recursive rule says you got wrong on one of the components. So you have to try few more. And the authentic response from the authoritative is reaching the recursive resolver as well. But bingo, the attacker managed to hit exactly the correct both port number and transaction ID, and the client got the wrong, the malicious attack in and is visiting the wrong website. And this is bad. So the attacker has a very short amount of time before the response arrives from the recursive resolver, from the authoritative server until it has to match. What we suggest is simply a very efficient data structure, some kind of a heavy hitter, wisely implemented, that as soon as there are more than 5 responses for the same domain from the same source IP address, which is IP address of the authoritative server, you block all such responses to the recursive resolver immediately. So the next thing is, how do you do mitigation? You simply send the recursive resolver, please come back, you spoof now the authoritative server as if it says, The response is too big, please come back over TCP with the TC bit on. And with TCP, we get the correct result and everything is good. The attacker cannot spoof the TCP because you need to do the three-way handshake and you have to guess 32-bit numbers of sequence numbers and other things, so it's very hard to spoof TCP connections. It's actually very simple, it's not entirely new. We have used it over the 26 years ago to stop denial of service attacks, but that's what we do now to stop the poisoning attacks. So I may have got wrong the false negative and false positive definition. False negative for me is what happens to legitimate requests. So legitimate requests, to be blocked, it has to be stuttering. It has to send the authoritative service to send a response for some strange reason 5 times or more. I don't believe this will happen, so we have minimal number of false positive, and we'll take off them in a minute. False negative, for the attacker, it has to guess all the correct parameters. Let's say 2 to 16, 65,000 options within 5 packets. So it's 5 over 65,000, which is a very small probability of success. For the mitigation, due to the TCP usage, there is no false negative. Even if I mistakenly block the authentic one, it will get through over TCP. And the attacker cannot spoof TCP, so we block all of them. So we still remain with the same amount of false positive as before. How many resolvers and authoritative servers use the TC bit and obey the TCP? We believe that the vast majority. Some papers report that more than 97% are some remote servers that may not implement it. Let me have details about the other 2 types of poisoning attacks, the fragmentation attack. I will do it very quickly. Essentially, the authoritative server responds with fragmentation. The second fragmentation gets first, and it has to have the correct IP ID, and it creates the packet and waits for the first fragment before it delivers the response to the client. In an attack, when a request goes out and the attacker knows this is a fragmentation response from bank.com, quickly send the second response first with the wrong IP address. When the first fragment arrives, it has still to guess the transaction ID, the fragmentation ID, the IP ID, which can have also 65,000. Some techniques know how to guess it exactly, actually. So there's one packet and the attack goes through. What do we do for defense? Very simple. Simply don't allow, we are IPS or IDS, don't allow any fragmentation to reach your recursive resolver. Block them all. And if you want to get through, you spoof again the authoritative server sending the request over TCP. That's how you get all the legitimate traffic goes through. So as you can see, this one has 100% false negative. We block everybody, including all the good ones. But with 0 false negative on the protection or the mitigation side, so altogether it's a 0 false negative, and we block all the malicious ones because we don't allow any fragmentations. And for in-bailiwick, it's a long story that I don't have time to go through all the techniques, but you can use in an out-of-bailiwick attack. This is an in-bailiwick because .com is responding for a .com and providing a glue record with the IP address of the server for foobar in this case. But instead, we go now for bank.com. We do out-of-bailiwick, and some resolvers, I don't know the statistics, you probably know better than me, don't deny and drop out-of-bailiwick responses and look for the glue record, and we say simply, all the mitigation is very simple. Let me show the mitigation. This is the attack, how it goes. You have to create a request that will generate the out-of-bailiwick response in order to put the name server IP address into the recursive resolver. We simply say drop any response which is out of bailiwick. And that's it, end of game, don't do anything. So we have very simple 3 rules in the IPS. They do require to look in the payload and to do some simple smart statistics to count more than 5 responses for the same domain. We compare ourselves to Suricata and Snort. They are passive IDSs, and they don't look into the payload, so they cannot operate on domain names. And we do the detection much faster than either Suricata or Snort. Conclusion, it's a rather simple method to protect from all this type of poisoning attacks. The mitigation with the TC bit. We also, that's the key point here, future attacks. Any statistical or fragmentation or out of bailiwick attack that anybody will cook will be blocked with this IPS module. And if you have a different detection method, you can still use those methods for your mitigation. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, and you can also visit our website over this QR code. Thank you.
Thank you, Yehuda. I think Roy got to the microphone first.
Thank you, Kathy. Roy Adams, I work for ICANN. On your statistical attack prevention, you block responses. When you observe more than 5 responses for let's say bank.com. So if I send you more than let's say 10 responses for any of the root servers.org, root servers.net, right? You would block anything from root servers.net, and I've effectively tricked POPAI into blocking anything from the root servers. Is that correct?
Yes. Why would the root respond with the same, exactly the same domain name?
Oh, I'm not a root server. I'm an attacker. I want to block everything. I want to make sure that you can't reach the internet. So I will send you, right, responses for root servers.org or root servers.net.
Spoofing the IP address of the root server.
Yes, I send you more than 5 responses from, let's say, a.rootservers.net, b.rootservers.net.
And then the next time I ask for the root server, I will go over TCP, yes. It doesn't block me from the root server. I will connect the root server over TCP for this.
Ah, okay. I thought you literally block. That's what I read on your slide.
I blocked the, yes, I block it, but then in the mitigation phase, I tell it to come back over TCP. I put the TC bit on, I spoof a response for the root server.
Yeah.
Please come back over TCP.
But you won't get anything from the root server. You just blocked it. The TCP bit only works in a response.
No. Excuse me, say again?
The TC bit only works in a response.
Yeah, so I spoof a response from my module to the recursive resolver. I'm saying I'm the root server, I'm spoofing the root server. You send a request to the root server, please come back over TCP with the TC bit on. If you didn't send anything to the root server, you won't, it will go nowhere, it drops. But if you did ask the root server something, you will ask it now the root server over TCP.
All right, let's take this offline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph?
Ralph Akamai. So a lot of the attacks that you described are really yesterday's attacks. I mean, because, and especially a lot of this came in after Kaminsky, and there's DNS servers out there that have implemented counter messages similar to what you're describing here. And the problem that I see, if people that run DNS software or that write DNS software do something in the DNS, then it's on the actual endpoint, while I would consider this a middleman, and I mean, middlemen's doing weird stuff with DNS is something we are very familiar here that this breaks stuff. So, and also when we developed the protocol to do other stuff like going over encrypted transport, I mean, all of this is out of the window anyway. So I think if you're protecting something that no longer sort of exists because the people that run these old softwares will install your stuff, and I would rather have them install new software. So that's just a comment. I mean, you're acting as a middle box, and
A middle box between the recursive resolver and the authoritative servers.
Yeah. And there are other software so what is happening if software has implemented that and you're running in front of them? So if you have a software that has implemented something like similar and you're running in front of them, what will happen? I mean, it is a problem.
If you use such a package inside the recursive resolver?
No, again, we have software and others have software that has kind of like made similar stuff. So if our software receives multiple UDP responses to a packet we send out, we automatically switch to TCP. We already do that. And there are other software out there that also does that.
If you already do it, fantastic. I mean, that's... We care to protect. If it's protected...
Okay. Next.
Peter,
Yeah.
very quick question.
Petr Špaček, SC. I wanted to basically underline what Ralph just said because, for example, not resolver will switch to TCP after first mismatching UDP response. So the window is, either the attacker guesses everything on first try or it fallbacks to TCP. So basically what Ralph said, it seems that the mitigations are in the software, so why would you put the middle box in there if you have it mitigated already?
Yeah. I think what we need to take into account, TCP introduces some overhead. It's not as efficient as UDP for the recursive resolver. So we take it out here and we take it, it doesn't save the traffic, but we still take it on the IPS or our module to do the analysis. Still, the resolver will have to do the TCP handshake and so forth. So there is some overhead when you, but from time to time, you will need to use TCP, yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Yehuda.
Thank you.